Hello, this is Patrick W. Crawford from Moo-Ack Productions, and this is a demo video for the beta release of the new MCprep add-on. If you want to help out with the beta and try it out, you can only get it from the link in the description below. So please go to that. Yes, it is a Google form. In this video, I want to demonstrate some of the key new features added and more or less how they work. This is also a good reference if you are trying out the beta and you're running into issues. You can see the way I'm doing it here, and if it's not working the same way for you, fill out the feedback. Alright, let's get into it. So there are three main things that have been added in this version of MCprep, and a number of other smaller changes. These features being swapping texture packs, being able to animate textures, and finding missing texture files. Additionally, more options have been added to prepping materials, including using the new principled shader, and generally speaking, the entire add-on has been refactored to be better, more efficient, and easier to manage. This will allow for faster updates in the future. So first, I'm going to follow the already existing workflow and just import any world. Notice that I have my default path set up directly to my JMC to obj world. I'm going to press import, and then I'm going to try out the first feature, which is animating textures. So you'll see I have my world here. I have not prepped materials yet, but I'll do that briefly. Note that I'm in cycles, and so it will create the nodes for these groups automatically. Although, of course, if I were in Blender Render, I could do the same thing, and it would also prep and improve the materials in the same way. But again, I'll go back to cycles. In the meantime, you can test it either way you want. So I want to animate textures. So when you export from JMC to obj or from Mineways, you'll note that textures like this lava or this end portal or even the water over here, it's not animated. If you go here, it's just a still image. If I go to fire, for example, you'll see it's just a single still image. The new feature MCprep does, it will automatically animate the texture based on the tiled image in the active resource pack, which comes with MCprep. So if I select, for example, all of these textures, and I'll go into local view just so we can see it a little bit closer. So again, it can work for anything that is animated or has an animated tile in a resource pack, but I'm just selecting these for now. If I go into advanced and then press animate textures, you'll see this pop-up comes up explaining these three things briefly. These are the options. You can either, which is the default, automatically create the animation sequence or each frame of the animation and place it in the same folder as the original texture, which is probably what you want to do most times. You can also copy it so that it exports this animation sequence into the MCprep texture pack, wherever that may be, or you can place it directly next to the blend file in a texture folder. So for now, I am going to just use this default option. You can press clear cache if for whatever reason you need to refresh and completely overwrite. Otherwise, it will be smart and reuse the previously exported frames. But you'll notice right as I press OK and give it just a moment to process, you'll see that it said modified for materials. And now you can't see it in the viewport because the viewport doesn't update animations, but if I do go into rendered view, you'll notice that as I animate or move my timeline cursor around, it's most evident in the lava. You can see that it is in fact updating. It has been animated. And so there you go. Future versions of MCprep will allow even more control or more nuanced animation. Right now it's just taking those tiled frames and animating them, but you could see that it could be made slower perhaps for the lava or could transition between the individual frames a bit better. But in the meantime, it's just animating the textures very directly. We can also take a look at the portal over here. Let me actually very briefly adjust the node layout so we can see it a bit easier. I'm just going to directly run into the diffuse texture so we can see it very clearly. And you can see there that is in fact animated. Great. So that works. Note that if I select everything and I press prep materials, I can also press the animate textures here. This will only attempt to add animations to textures where the animations are found. So you'll notice if I do this here, it's going to re-prep everything, and any materials that were animated, it will have reapplied them. So notice that again, the lava texture is in fact still animated. Great. Okay, so that is animate textures. Really nice and something that was really difficult to do before. The next feature is swapping texture packs. Now this one is quite interesting. So this is this button over here, obviously. Pressing this, I can navigate to a resource pack that I've already unzipped. And just for reference, these are some of the resource packs that I've already downloaded. You can use any that you wish. All you need to do is download it and unzip the resource pack or the resource file. And in Blender, you just need to point to one of the subfolders of that resource pack. So you'll note that it defaults when I open this to the resource pack that MCprep comes with. This is how it actually reconnects missing textures, which is a feature I'll show in a moment. But I'm going to use another one such as this Realistico demo over here. So when I press swap texture pack, it may take a little bit to run, especially if they're larger resolution images. That just takes a while. It shouldn't matter too much the size of your world. It matters more just the number of materials or the number of unique blocks you're using, because each block will have its own set of images. And once it is run, we'll see that it has updated. And so a few things I'm going to point out. Firstly, if I go into rendered mode right now, and I'm going to quickly add a sun and prep the world settings, which these are actually new features, so note that out as well. You can see that this is a resource pack that adds things like normal maps and a little bit of extra detail into the textures themselves. So if I exit rendered mode and go into this just textured mode, if I zoom in a little bit closer, you can see some of the extra details we have on the blocks here. And again, if I go into render mode here, my rendering is quite slow because I'm just on a little bit a small laptop, but you'll see that you can quite easily notice the normals that are coming through on all these textures. And just to further demonstrate that, I'm going to click on this stone brick, go into the node layout it generated, and you can see that it has normals as well as even a specular map. So all these are included with the new MCprep version. If a resource file or a resource pack does not have specular or normals, that's fine. It works obviously without those, but it is nice that it's something that works. The other thing you'll note is that things like grass and leaves appear to have lost their color. That is because resource packs actually have grayscale images, or mostly grayscale images, for these leaves and grass and so forth. But the add-on is intelligent, so that even though the viewport might not look right, it does actually add the color back into those images. And the way it does that, again, it works both for cycles as well as in Blender internal, for those of you that still use it. But go into one of those materials, you'll see there is an add color overlay mix. And if I want to adjust the color that it actually adds back to the image, maybe to make it match better to my scene, I can just adjust this over here. So maybe the green needs to be a little bit darker to match everything, or it's a little bit more to the blue side, or maybe a bit more of a folly color over here. You can play around with it there. All right. So of course you can actually swap multiple textures. So I can say I only want to, for a subset of my materials, swap it to even another texture pack. So you notice I'm not selecting everything here. Maybe I'll select just a little bit fewer things. I'm going to swap these ones to a different texture pack. So I'll press swap texture pack. I'll select my HD realism one over here. And so when I do that, it says 2 materials were affected. You can see definitely that it has changed the texture pack here. I'm actually not even sure if these ones have normal or not. And nope, that's a good example. So this texture pack does not have normal or specular maps. So you'll notice that the normal map is hidden, so it's a specular map. But everything else works. The diffuse still works. And you'll notice the tint color is hidden as well because it's not one of those desaturated textures. So you can also animate textures from these other resource packs. So if I go to, let's see, if I select let's just select the lava for now, and then I'm going to press swap texture pack. Notice down here I have animate textures enabled as well as extra passes. I'm going to select the backyard craft texture pack, which I know has animated fire and lava, which not all texture packs do. And I'm going to press swap. This is actually quite quick. Normally this would take a little while, but I think my animations were cached. But if I go into render mode here, you'll see you have this much more detailed lava animation. If I kind of go through my timeline, it's a little bit harder to see with my refresh render rate, but you can see that's an animated texture. If I exit out of here, you'll notice that that was the only texture that was swapped into that pack. Everything else is the same. So you can mix multiple packs at the same time if you want. So another feature worth pointing out is if I just restart my Blender file and go back to the MCprep world and go to import world, I'm going to import a world where I know the textures are missing. So notice all of these world exports here, they live next to a text folder which has all of the textures here. If I show all of these are all the images that are in that folder. But I purposefully put one of my exports into this subfolder that doesn't have a texture folder. So when I import this, you'll notice that everything is pink because it is missing. Or if I go into the Blender render, it's just gone, it's not there. And even if I prep materials, and I deselect auto find missing, which is the new feature, if I do that here, everything is just very, very pink. So the new feature, as you can expect, fixes this issue by finding textures that are in the local MCprep resource pack and reconnecting them. So if I prep materials and use auto find missing images, you'll see that magically everything is fixed. Now again, of course, this is pulling from a real resource pack, so things like grass and leaves will show up in the viewport as well as gray, but it will have added the color back in through the overlay node. And if I go into cycles, the same thing will be true. I can prep materials again, and the textures will have already been found, but it'll again fix it up, and going to render mode, you should be able to see that everything works. Alright, that's all for now. Thank you for listening. Again, if you're a beta tester, please fill out that form. Give me feedback. I love to see how these things work. And thank you for contributing to making the next release, which will be in about a week's time or so. Alright everyone, until next time.